Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first official episode of The Synergy Show. I have a wonderful guest here today, Mr. Ivan Arturo. I will let him introduce himself. Mr. Ivan, can you give us a brief description, background of who you are, who is Ivan Arturo, and why we were so excited to have you on the show today?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Ibrahim, for having me in the first episode for The Synergy. Right. So who is Ivan Arturo? So that's a very intriguing question. What I would say is Ivan is an entrepreneur. I'm a financial expert, and through my company IAB Associates Financial Solutions, we actually help Canadians, business owners, business professionals achieve financial independence and be able to live healthier lives. Because remember, you are good in your finances, you will be totally healthy as well, right?
Absolutely.
And that's been for over 16 years in my business. In the personal side, I'm married right now with my lovely wife, Elena. Actually, I met her in Canada when I came to Canada. And when it goes back to my story, I am one of those immigrant stories that I came to Canada more than 22 years ago. And I came just to study, my bachelor degree in business. I went to York University. I did my business degree in finance. So I was always interested in financial planning, investments, and finance in general. So I did my degree there, and then after that, it's been now 16 years as a financial planner.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I'm sure we're going to have a really deep conversation. Just for those tuning in, as I said, this is the first official episode of the Synergy Show, and what we're really trying to do is pick people's brains like Ivan and other individuals in various industries who are entrepreneurs, business owners, and go-getters, right? People who are very successful in their field, in their industry, and we want to pick their brain to get an understanding of what it's like to be an entrepreneur, what their journey's been like, and basically what type of tips and tips and strategies that we can extract from them so that we can, benefit in our own businesses as well, right? Because
Absolutely.
A lot of the things that make you successful in your industry are translatable in my industry and other people's industries, right? So that's the whole purpose of this show. So let's dive deep into your background as an entrepreneur.
Sure.
First question I want to ask you, why become an entrepreneur? Why not just get a desk job?
Yeah, so I guess, it comes, along with the freedom and also the financial independence. But also it comes, like what you just mentioned, the go-getter mindset. I think, for people who are really, not satisfied with the status quo, that's what, they have something in their blood, to become a business owner, be an entrepreneur. So I think that's one of the key things, that I really, enjoy. And obviously, as you might know, like this journey is not as easy one. You have to face a lot of challenges. You don't have a stable income. There are like the ups and downs in the business. But I think, through time, you try to cope with those challenges. And at the end, you feel, I've been doing this for over 16 years as an entrepreneur. And I've seen now the results of all this heavy lifting work that I have done throughout the last 16 years.
And we're going to dive into this deeper, but I'm sure you didn't find success right away. It wasn't a get-rich-quick scheme, right? It took 16 years of compound results, right? It's still working, right?
It's still working.
So before we get into that, and we're going to dive into that as well, but what was it like in the early years as an entrepreneur? Because a lot of people, especially now on TikTok and Instagram, there's all these stories and things about people getting rich as entrepreneurs. Open up an LLC, do this, do that, you're going to become rich, right? Influencers. But that's all the flashy side of being an entrepreneur. But there's a darker side too. And by that, I mean, the struggle that you have to get to or go through to get to where you are right now. So what were those early years like as an entrepreneur for you in your journey?
Yeah, I normally like to relate this to, like an iceberg, basically, right? So, everybody sees the success and they look at the freedom, like pretty much when you have the iceberg, but they don't see the foundation. They don't see all the hustling, all the, the late nights. I was working every day, like 7 days a week, maybe 10 to 12 hours a day. I was putting many, many hours into the business. At the beginning, it was so hard to find your first client because that's always very difficult to find clients. And you don't really know who the niche market that you want to tap into it. I mean, that's the second thing that I learned later in my career. And also the financial implications. Because obviously, like you have to pay, your rent, you have to pay your food, you have to pay your car, and you don't have that stable income. So I think, be able to create the systems throughout time to be able to have the A and Z, all together, and you can actually organize in such a way that you will be able to make it. And I think, keep yourself motivated and try to have a clear picture of what success means to you and be able to go step by step. It will be able to help you be very successful. So I think that, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that you have to put, the number of hours, trying to keep yourself motivated. Many people in our business, I'm sure also in yours, they get demotivated after 2 years and they just be out of the business, right? But if there is something, in you that are really trying to keep going, keep trying different strategies, keep trying, to get new clients, keep trying to try different things. I did try everything. I think I have tried, buying leads. I did, social media marketing. I did, a lot of webinars, seminars. I did many things until I was able to find, this is what I want to do because it's working for me. But I did try so many things.
That is so, I love that you said that because especially in my industry, in real estate, there's so many different ways you can get business and people get distracted by the new shiny object, right? Shiny object syndrome, right?
Right.
Right now, the most historically most efficient forms of prospecting for people in real estate is cold calling and door knocking, right? So people will start door knocking, new agents will door knock for five months, maybe a couple weeks, a few months, but then they're not getting their results right away. So they'll be like, okay, now it's time for me to buy leads. Now it's time for me to do this seminars, do this, do that, do this, do that. And if you're just diverting all your attention to multiple things, instead of focusing your efforts and your energy onto one thing, you're not going to get results, right?
Right.
And one other thing you said to me that stood out was, it wasn't until you got your systems down
Set
up, that's when things changed for you, right? So you found out what was working for you, and then you set up your systems so that it's going to work even better, more efficient, and get you more results. So what was that process like, setting up the systems? Was that something you did yourself? Did you look for outside help? How did that come to you? Because that's where a lot of people struggle, right?
Yeah, so, go back, let's say to year 3 and 5, that was like the beginning, when I really found out, this is what is working. It was about developing COIs. Center of influence. And then I did partner up, with professionals like the way that we're doing, with real estate agents, mortgage brokers, lawyers, people that, accountants, people that are in the business of people. And then, I was able to develop this solid relationship with those professionals that we were getting all these referrals among ourselves. So that was becoming so easier. Plus also, I think one of the key things is that you have to find the niche market that you feel comfortable working with, right? Because sometimes people want to say, I want to work only in your business, luxury homes, for example, right? Or I want to work, only in this specific market, but you really have to learn all the process to get to that point, right? So absolutely. I think, one of the key things in my business is just developing a long-term relationship with my COIs. That was one of the things, that really took off my business. And also be the financial expert in my community as well. So I have an office in the area of Richmond Hill. So many of my clients in the area, they know that Ivan Arturo, he's the financial planner in the area. And actually I was putting my name out on newspapers. Also, I did also a radio show as well in the Spanish community back then. So I was actually, the person to go to when it comes to financial planning advice. And that was one of the things that really did a lot of branding for myself and for my business. And also be able to get a lot of referrals. So that was the part that I actually worked. Cold calling, buying leads, for me, it didn't work.
It didn't work, and that's totally fine. It works for some people. It doesn't work for
yeah.
you, right?
Exactly.
One thing you said is, it was critical for you to find your COIs, your center of influence.
100%, yes.
And I'm sure after you found them, you poured love into them and nurtured that relationship, right? So for people that are just getting into entrepreneurship, whether it's your field, which is financial planning or real estate or mortgages or finance, how do you find your COIs? Where did you go to find your COIs, right? Because that's where a lot of people struggle. Like, okay, great. I'd love to have a mortgage broker, a lawyer, this and that. But where do I find these people that are going to trust me when I'm new to the industry, right?
Back in the time, it was different from what it is right now. So back in the time, to be honest, I was just taking the yellow pages. I don't know, you remember that? Maybe you remember that.
I do.
Okay. So I was taking the yellow pages. Okay, I'm going to look at, and the guy who has the biggest page on the newspaper on the yellow pages, that means business to me, because I think these people has invested thousands of dollars to be, on the first page or on the 2 pages of the yellow page. So I was contacting these people. I wasn't contacting the people who have a very small ad on the yellow page, because I feel there is no money there, to invest in that marketing strategy, right? So that was number one. Back in the time, I was doing that, and then just making phone calls and try to go for coffees. Go for a coffee, and then obviously these people have been in business for a long time and was just the new kid on the block, basically. And then they say, what, let me just take you out, for this, and let me just invest in your business. That's how I did, develop that COIs. So I was, let me see, what do you do? Okay, I do radio, I do webinar. Okay, let me be a sponsor. Let me, let me help you in your marketing strategy. Let me help you on this financially, or maybe even with my time. So they really like that approach. So if you are planning to develop COIs, try that, right? Try, to be, because everybody's looking for a COI for business and for referrals. I mean, that's not going to work like that. You have to be that person that you want to invest in their success, and then I'm sure because you're doing that commitment financially or with your time, they will refer clients back to you. I think that's a good way to develop COIs.
That is amazing. And I love that, because it just comes down to, a lot of people have the false conception. I'm going to reach out to this person and I'm going to introduce myself and I'm going to get clients.
Yeah,
but, everybody is busy. Everybody already has their COIs, which is the reality. Established people have their COIs. How do you set yourself apart from the people that they're already working with? You have to go give them value.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
Whether with your time, like you said, or
financially.
you have to give some value to these people in order for you to get value back from them.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're just like every other cold call that they get, right?
Correct.
And that is wonderful advice. And as realtors, for example, we get a lot of calls from mortgage brokers all the time, and oftentimes
lawyers as well. Yes.
And lawyers as well. And it's always the same spiel. Hi, I'm so and so. This is what I do, and I'd love your business.
That's it.
What are you going to do for us, right? Exactly. What are you going to do for us? Because we're already working with a fantastic core group of people that are supporting our business day in, day out. Why should we leave the people we know and trust to work with you?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing that people don't understand, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing people
they don't understand. Nowadays, like I was telling this story about the yellow page, but nowadays you can go on LinkedIn. Like now LinkedIn is the best.
Yes.
Like LinkedIn, is how we got connected, for example, in this case here. But LinkedIn now is you don't have to go to yellow pages anymore. Now on LinkedIn and trying to read the profiles, people in your area, and then try to message, and then that's how you can get connected. Nowadays it's a little bit easier, the connection, but again, adding value to their business is important, because you're not going to get referrals because you are just somebody else on the street that's doing the same thing.
As someone who is on LinkedIn, but I don't use it as frequently as I should, there's a plethora of value that you can get out of it too, right?
Yes.
There's so many connections you can make. But I think the problem now is everybody just sends connections, and you get kind of lost in the sea of connections that people have, right? So now the strategy is, how do you make yourself stand out compared to everybody else, right, on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
That's where I find the struggle is. I don't know if you've dealt with that or if you've countered that in some way.
I have built, I have changed my profile a couple of times. I've been able to put the right message for the clients that I wanted to work with. And I've been able to just, post some content. I think creating content and education content, it would, be very valuable to people. So once you have a little content and people really like what you're putting out there, then you become an expert field in something. Right? And that's how you will be able to develop that relationship with the people who are connected. And I'm sure you can send messages and be able to connect with people and trying to get together maybe for a virtual coffee. Nowadays, after the pandemic, everybody goes for virtual
coffees, yeah.
Right? So have a virtual coffee, and then let's chat about how we can help each other in our business. And then remember what he just mentioned, adding value to their business. What's the value there, right? And then that's how you can develop those COIs.
And that's the thing too, like, being an entrepreneur, you're going to need to rely on other entrepreneurs and business owners.
100%.
So not only are we prospecting for our clients, we're also prospecting for business partners and COIs.
Correct.
And you're going to get rejection from your clients and also from other business owners. But that's the thing that people can't stomach sometimes, is rejection. But it's okay. Not everyone is going to be the right COI for you, the right person to work with or partner with. There are a million other people that
even clients,
even clients, right?
Clients. Not everybody is fit to be, to be your client. But we have to develop that, thick skin. That's how have that thick skin that you are rejected. It's okay. You go next. There are thousands of good clients out there that I'm sure they're going to be happy to have you. And that's another thing as well. Sometimes when we get a rejection, it's not like me losing a client. It's their own loss because they don't have me as the financial expert for their family. So that's their loss. If you have that mentality, you don't feel rejected. It's their own loss. It's not my loss.
At the end of the day, all of us as entrepreneurs, we're service people, right? We're
100%.
providing some type of service, whether even if it's a product you're selling, you're still providing a service to that person, right? And that mentality is so critical, especially for new people getting into any industry. Your mindset should be, I'm not doing them a favor. They're not doing me a favor. I'm doing them a favor. Yeah. I'm going to change their life today by getting them into their family home. I'm going to change their life today by setting them up for retirement so their kids never have to struggle.
Right.
That mindset change is so important. And I think a lot of new people in any industry, they struggle because there's that a little bit of desperation, I guess. You're new into the industry, you have bills to pay, and you're like, I'll take anything I can get, right? But once you develop that abundance mindset, I think, and change your mindset into that place where you're doing them a favor rather than them doing you a favor, it will change your life. And, the first time I fired a client was one of the best feelings I ever had, right?
I keep doing it all the time.
But you understand more as well as I do. That's one of the best feelings ever because that's where that mindset shift changes, right? Like, I don't need to take on this if I don't want to. Because
it's the confidence. I think you have to build that confidence that you're really good at what you do. That not everybody is fit to be your client. I think that you have that abundance mindset, and you know that you add value to anybody. So you have that confidence for yourself about the good things that you're doing to the society. Then that means it's their loss if they're not doing business with you. When that mindset changes, I'm sure everything around you will change as well.
100%, 100%. One thing I want to dive into is we're talking about providing value to our customers, providing value to people that we're working with. All of this is great, and it's part of being an entrepreneur. But the other aspect of being an entrepreneur is obviously the financial freedom that we touched on. It gives you the ability to basically make as much money as you want with no hard ceiling, right? No employer telling you you're only going to make X amount every year. But money is obviously one big factor in what drives you. What is your true why? After 16 years in the industry, it's not just money that keeps you going. I'm sure you have to pay your bills, but there's something deeper inside you that drives you every day to go to work. So what is your why for why you are an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I'll tell you this, my parents are educators, right? So, education has been always, part of my background and beliefs. And actually, I saw that gap, about financial literacy. So my why is just to empower people, Canadians and family, achieve financial independence, basically. It's just to be able to provide that expertise, provide the tools that they need, so that actually they can have the life they have been envisioning for themselves. So that's something that it has been my why. So my why is to try to close that gap of lack of expertise, because they don't teach financial planning, investments, insurance at school. They don't teach that. And that's something that I guess the government is trying to implement, through different, classes in high school. But I don't think it's not there yet. So I think that lack of knowledge of that, it makes other people make huge mistakes when it comes to they don't know how to manage their budget, cash flow, credit issues. And that's why it's important, to have a good credit, obviously, in your business. But I think, my why is just to empower, to empower people to achieve financial independence. That's my why. So I'll be able to help, them and then leave a legacy. Through my practice, leave, a legacy. We have been touching so many lives. We manage over 1,200 households right now in my practice. So I'm touching every single household with my expertise throughout the last 16 years. So I think that's my why, to be able to be the financial expert, be able to educate people in what is important about your financials. So you can have that control of what's coming in, what's coming out, and what are my goals so I can achieve them and have that financial freedom that they want to achieve.
That's amazing. You're quite literally changing people's lives, because a lot of people who are coming from this place of financial illiteracy, who maybe are not even saving towards their retirement, or just working away. Most people are not, right? My parents never saved for retirement ever. Right. And you're going in there and you're stepping in, you're telling them, look, this is what you need to do, this is how you're going to do it, and I'm going to support you along the way.
Right.
Right?
That's
And it's not just, I assume it's not just a one-off meeting. You're having multiple meetings over multiple
Ongoing
years.
process.
It's a lifelong relationship that you're building with people. They're trusting you with their retirement, which obviously plays a little bit of a toll on in terms of your responsibility that you have, but also sure it makes you feel really happy that, you know, clients that you worked with 16 years ago now today are in a much better financial position because of the help that you've given them, your company has given them, right?
Yeah, so I have seen that because actually right now, you know, most of the clients that I started, you know, with a simple concept such as RESP, you know, education funding for, you know, for education. Now I've seen that thanks to what we have set up together for the children, now they can send the kid to school, to college, they go to the States, you know, for education. So I have seen the results, and they're very thankful about what we have done in the past, because they can see the results. They see, you know, the value that we provided. And also when it comes to retirement, like they see, you know, the difference, because sometimes financial advisors, they're very transactional. I mean, if you go to different institutions, you know, it's just, okay, what you're gonna sell me today, you know, is a credit card, it's a new mortgage, this and that. It's very transactional. In our business, and that's what the difference is through IAB Associates Financial Solution, is that we try to build that long-term relationship. So since day one up until now, we have built that, or we have forged that relationship with all our clients up until the point that now we are, you know, even going now to the second generation now.
Wow. Yeah. I'm sure at the beginning, you know, when they don't see immediate results, because the results are going to come in down the line.
Time.
So obviously at the beginning,
time is your friend.
Time is your friend. But at the beginning, maybe there's a little bit of pushback or uncertainty on their end. But as they start seeing their results compounding quite literally over multiple years, that's when they're like, okay, wow, I'm glad we trusted our household income with Ivan and you know, his company, right? So that's honestly, I'm sure, a really good feeling that you get. Tell me how you're helping people set up for retirement. What type of products or what type of strategies are you using to help people get into a better position?
Okay, that's a great question. So it all depends on the financial. First, you know, we have to clean up their messes sometimes, because sometimes, you know, families have a lot of messes, such as, for example, debt. They have bad debts. You know, we have to make sure they have a good cash flow habits, and many of them, they don't have the good habits. So we take, you know, try to clean up all the messes first, and then once they understand what they have done in the past, maybe it's not working, then after that, then we set up, you know, for example, money contributions to TFSAs, money contributions to RSPs, be able to invest. Because many people, they know about TFSAs and RSPs, but they have the money just sitting in high interest savings account, which for the last 10, 20 years, it's been an average about 1.5 or 2%. And the inflation rate for the last 10, 15, 20 years is about 2%. So at the end, you're not making any money at all, right? You just, you know, keeping pace with inflation. So, and some people are very, you know, uncomfortable with the volatility of the market. But the only way for you to get value is by investing the money. But people are not educated. So that's my job, you know, as an educator, financial expert educator. So actually just to educate people about what stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, and all these securities in the market are available to them and how they can use them. Once they feel comfortable about investing, they understand, okay, so let's portion of my money, and now I always tell my clients, first, you have to pay yourself first. And what it means is, you know, like some people in our mindset is that we get paid from income, I spend all the money, pay all these utility bills, mortgage, this, and if I have a leftover, I may save it. That's a lot of people's mentality. But on the other side is you have to at least take 15 to 20% of your income and pay yourself first. So try to use 20% of your income, contribute to your TFSAs, RSPs, emergency savings, education plans, and insurance planning. So you take that 20% of your income and put it into this, which are your mid and long-term goals, then you can live on the 80%. If you're able to do that, I'm sure you're going to be very successful. So that's how, you know, I prepare clients. First, clean up the messes. Second, I use the analogy about pay yourself first. Use 20% of your income towards your financial goals and try to live on 80%. Some people tend to spend more than 100% of what they're making, and that's an issue, right? So try to make sure, you know, to go with that analogy. And once the money is invested and they understand how the markets work, then they will see the results. And as you mentioned, it's a compound an interest effect that every, let's say if you have an average of 7% in your investments, every 10 years you're doubling your money, every 10 years.
I love what you said about paying yourself first.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, they don't pay themselves first, right? Once they pay off all their bills, their mortgage, all that stuff, there's nothing left over, right? Yeah. I think there's 2 books that really discuss this concept of paying yourself first. First one, I think, very briefly, in The Richest Man in Babylon. I don't know if you've ever heard this. Yeah. That concept, not exactly the same, but something similar is in there. And it just shows you the results of somebody that pays themselves first, forces themselves to set aside, I believe it was 10% in the book, and that resulted in him being a millionaire. The other thing is in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you've ever read that book, business owners pay themselves first before they pay their expenses. Even if you're not self-employed or a business owner, you can still utilize that concept.
Yeah.
Contribute towards your family's financial future first, and then worry about everything else afterwards. Even if it's 5%, it doesn't have to be 20% at the beginning, but
it can be 10% first, and then I have even seen cases that once we go through all the process, I have seen cases that they want to buy their first home, and I see all the expenses. As you know what, to be honest, maybe the rent is too expensive. Maybe you have to reaccommodate your rent, go to a smaller place for maybe 1 or 2 years, trying to save enough money for a down payment of a house. Once you're ready, you can make the move. But I have, sometimes to tell them the truth, and sometimes that's the toughest part. I'm very honest on what I see, and I really, try to tell them, this is what the numbers are, and if you are not making changes in your habits, it's not going to happen. So what's important is to try to, for the clients to be coachable, because some they are, some of them they are not. So if they really want to have control of their finances, they need to be coachable. And I tell them, you have to do this, for clean up the messes if you want to achieve your financial goals, because otherwise it's going to be very hard.
No, absolutely. And, I'm sure there's people that are not coachable, like you said, that they think they know what's best all the time, right? Those are not the right clients to work with.
They're not the right clients to work with.
They're not the right clients to work with, but that's okay, because there's a lot of people that are coachable that you can work with, and you can make a difference in their life, right? So let's go back to the investment aspect of it, because obviously saving is one part of the puzzle, right? Now, what do you do with those savings? You invest them into different types of assets. So you mentioned stocks, bonds, ETFs, mutual funds, I assume, things like that. What are you encouraging your clients to invest in currently?
Well, I wouldn't be able to mention any advice on camera about that, obviously for compliance reasons. But I normally know those are the products. We have ETFs, index funds, we have mutual funds, we have securities, stocks, bonds, and also we have different portfolio selections. So we can actually, depending on the risk appetite, and also it depends on the time horizon that they're investing their money in, and also it depends on the, on the financial objectives. So when I do the true analysis about the financial planning situation, then I will be able to make recommendations. Some people, like, as I mentioned before, some people that are just saving money at the bank level and just trying to just put money in the high interest savings account.
One second. Turn the light.
There we go.
It's on a timer. Sorry. So some people, they invest in a high interest savings account.
So they invest in high interest. So what it is, I just tell them, okay, so first I educate them, because they have to understand. Because if they don't know anything about the market, they're not going to invest because they don't feel comfortable. So I do it through an education process, number one. Number two, I ask about the time horizon. Is this for short term, mid-term, or for retirement? That's number two. Number three is, do you have emergency savings? That's important, because if you don't have emergency savings, then what if you lose your job, you get sick, and you don't have enough money? The emergency savings has to be available. GICs are not emergency savings, that I can tell you, because GICs are locked in for 1 or 2 years and you cannot touch the money. That's not. Emergency savings, it can be a HIS account, high interest savings account, that you can put it when you have easy access when you need it the most, right? When it comes to mid-term and long-term goals, that's when you have to invest the money in different securities, in different asset classes, mutual funds, securities, ETFs, index funds. So we have different options, but we build portfolios. So one of the things as a financial planner is that we have access to all the investment fund managers in Canada. So we can actually, we're not biased, like sometimes when you go into, let's say, to the different financial institutions, they can offer what the product shop has. Right? In our case, we have the fiduciary duty just to work with the client to offer what's best in the market to be able to offer to the client. So we can pick different companies in Canada, and then we build portfolios, and then we just give that portfolio recommendation to our clients.
So sometimes for some clients, you're picking certain stocks. For
Right.
some clients, you're not picking stocks. You might just be investing in the S&P or
Correct.
in some safe mutual fund and whatever company.
It depends.
It all depends.
It
Case
depends
by
on
case.
it's a case by case situation. It depends on the client's risk appetite, understanding, and the comfort zone. Right. After the education process, some people they wanna be able to build, their money. So maybe ETFs would be a good way to do it, and they're not touching the money, and they understand the ups and downs in the market. That's what we call passive investments. Or maybe they want to have more of an active approach. They want to have active fund managers that they're actually trying to minimize, when there is a bad market, but they want to optimize returns. So maybe having an active managers might be the best solution. Now, I think people have to understand also about the fees, right? Because there is always a fee when you invest in the market. It can be low fees, mid fees, and high fees, but low fees not necessarily means that you're making more money. And that's what the misconception sometimes in the media, people have that misconception that you pay lower fees, you're going to be richer than you think, right? But sometimes that's not the case, because sometimes even low fees doesn't mean the performance is great. So that's what we need to teach clients, and this is what we do at IAB. We just try to educate clients, explain the fee structure for different investment solutions, and then what I normally recommend when I see a family or a client that wants to invest, I tell them, this is what is recommended, the fee structure, depending on the assets, and that's how we'll be able to implement the recommendations.
So it's all it comes down to is case by case. Every client has their own strategy.
Different.
There's no uniform strategy for all of your
No.
clients. You're basically taking each client's risk appetite, their personal circumstances, their lifestyle choices as well,
Exactly.
and using all of that together to come up with a tailored solution specifically for them.
Correct.
Right, so that's very interesting. We are gonna come back to investments in a
Sure.
moment, but one thing I want to talk about is something else that you also work with. You also sell and promote life insurance, correct?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what role life insurance plays in, first of all, this is a two-part question. What role does life insurance play in helping people set up for retirement?
Okay.
And the second part of the question is, how can you use life insurance as an investment vehicle?
Okay. Yeah, I guess life insurance, in everybody's mind is about protection, right? So that's, if something were to happen to me, my family will be very well, taken care of in terms of any sickness, illness, or premature death. So that's what everybody's minds think about life insurance. But life insurance is not only about protection. It's also, it can be an investment vehicle. And that's why it's called life insurance. I know many people don't know that actually you can be your own beneficiary on your own life insurance policy. Because you can actually leverage the policy, you can save funds inside the policy, you can use it for estate planning purposes with that life insurance policy. Because otherwise it would be called death insurance. This is not death insurance, this is life insurance, right? So life insurance is one of the best financial instruments that we have available. Because here in Canada, and I tell you this, there are only 4 financial vehicles that are tax-free that people should be aware of. Number 1, TFSAs. We know that it's a tax-free savings account. You can invest up to a maximum, is limited, but you have that option. Number 2, principal residence, right? Principal residence is tax-free. You were to buy a property today, you sell it tomorrow, the capital gains is totally tax-free. You don't have to pay taxes for now. Number 3, we have life insurance proceeds that are also tax-free. So any proceeds you get from life insurance is 100% tax-free. And number 4, and I don't know if people play the lottery here, but lottery winnings are also tax-free, right? So those are the 4 methods, but life insurance is one of them.
Okay.
And actually, life insurance proceeds are tax-free, and also when you grow assets inside the policy, you will be able to compound the growth of your investments inside the cash value life insurance in such a way that you are able to defer the taxes, you're able to grow your taxes compoundly, not taxes, to defer taxes or grow your assets in a way that actually it will create a mass amount of cash in the policy that at the point that you get into retirement, you can leverage the policy either for investment purposes, for your own retirement, and even if you have business owners that they have corporate-owned life insurance, they can use it, for estate planning purposes. Because actually, all the proceeds of life insurance, as I mentioned before, are tax-free, so we'll be able to pay any capital gains of anything. If they have investment properties, if they have investments, in RSPs, for example, which are fully taxable, you will be able to offset any capital gains using life insurance. Because as I mentioned before, life insurance proceeds are 100% tax-free benefit. So you can always, do that. So you can use it for protection, but at the same time, you can use it, as a financial planning tool that you will be able to grow your assets for you, for yourself, and for your family.
So that cash value in the life insurance policy, you can then use that to invest in different types of asset classes.
You can borrow it, yes.
You can borrow against it,
yes.
Like you would take a mortgage out from a
house.
bank. You would take not a mortgage, but you would take out the cash from the life insurance policy, borrow against it, right?
There is a difference, in
Yes.
that. Is that because when somebody passes away, is tax-free money, right? So for a lot of investors, who have real estate properties, one of the biggest tax bill is the capital gain, right? And now the government, as we know, they have increased it to for beyond 250,000. Then it would be 66.6%, right, of the capital gain inclusion rate. So now we have to be very careful about taxation, because here in taxes and and debt is one of the main things that happen here in Canada. So we want to make sure that we can plan that tax liability. So life insurance is a tool that will be able to offset that capital gain exposure for your investment properties. Because it's great to invest in real estate. I have seen it even for myself, even for my clients, but also people sometimes don't consider is how much could be the tax bill. Do I want to pass the cottage to my kids? Do I want to pass this investment property to my next generation? Sometimes there are a lot of estates that they don't have liquidity. So the intention of passing on the cottage to the family, or the intention to pass the properties to the next generation, sometimes is not going to be able to do it because they don't have the liquidity to pay the tax bill before that happens. So life insurance, it would be also a good way to offset those capital gains. So they have enough liquidity so the next generation can receive that property, that cottage, or those investment properties, so you don't have to sell it. Because otherwise, the estate administrator need to liquidate the properties to pay the tax bill.
So for those that don't know, I guess you're going to explain this a little bit. Your primary residence, if you pass away, taxes tax-free. But if you own a cottage, an investment property, let's say you have a 8-plex that's generating a lot of money, and you're like, this is the perfect assets to stay within the family.
Right.
But upon your death, you will have to pay capital gains on the property. If you do not have the liquidity, then what's going to happen?
The estate is going to sell
the property.
The property to pay, because taxes comes first, inheritance is second.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So
comes second.
Although you might want it to pass down generation after generation after generation, it might not be possible if you don't have enough liquid cash in your estate, right?
Right.
And it's a
Life
lot easier
insurance,
to have life insurance to give you that liquid cash, that liquidity to pay off the
Exactly.
taxes, rather than having cash sitting around, right? Because your cash could be making more money elsewhere in different assets.
You got it.
Right?
You got it 100%. Yeah, that's the simplest way to explain. And that's one thing, one of the estate planning tools that life insurance provides. And the second thing, as you mentioned, is that a lot of people have, maxed out their credit already in investments, and they want to look, for opportunities. So you have, cash value life insurance. You will be able to leverage your own policy. You don't have to go for any financial underwriting to borrow money against your policy. You can borrow it. 3 days later, you have the money in your bank account. If that's for an investment, then you can write off the interest on the policy loan, and then it would be, but the cash value keeps growing. Like you didn't take the money out, but at the same time you took the money out just because you did a leverage strategy. So you have like a dual investment. You leverage your policy, plus also you're investing in something that is going to create value for yourself. So that's why a lot of investors, they use that strategy. And guess what? When they pass, what you just mentioned before, proceeds of the life insurance goes tax-free and is offsetting all the capital gains.
So let's circle back. Let's circle back for a second.
Yeah.
You take money out of the policy. You use that. Let's say 200,000. You use that towards a property.
Right.
That 200,000 is now gone out of the cash value of the life insurance policy, but it's going to continue growing.
You cannot. You borrow it.
You're borrowing
so
it.
The cash value keeps growing.
Keeps growing. That's what I mean.
Even if you, because you're borrowing, then the cash value keeps growing like you didn't take the money out.
And here's the thing: if you had 200K cash and you use that as a down payment on the house, that cash, yes, it's going to grow in the asset, but it's already used in the asset. Only the asset will grow. But in this case, if you use the life insurance to invest in another asset, that asset will grow, plus your life insurance
Correct.
policy
You
will
got
grow
it.
at the same time. So you're
Correct.
getting double the gains, right?
You get double the
and
gains.
that's where investing in real estate or using life insurance to invest in real estate is a great way to basically compound your growth over a long term, right?
You have a double leverage strategy.
Exactly. And that's where I didn't even know about this until last year in more detail, right? Where not only can you take advantage of your life insurance cash value growing over time, but you can use that cash to invest in an appreciating asset that's going to grow at the same time. And as you said, double leverage, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
this is where I feel like the government has failed because they don't, the society, nobody, even people in the financial industry don't know about strategies like this. And this is where people like you come in to educate people and play that educator role and letting people know that this is all possible.
Right.
And you know, I'm sure you've seen a lot of people, their success has compounded over many years because of this strategy.
Yeah, I was going to say as well that, you know, I know a lot of investors that have something called PREC, like personal real estate corporations.
Yes.
So now it's becoming very popular nowadays is to have your corporate owned policy, which means that you can use corporate dollars, and it can be your PREC, it can be any other type of investments. You can have your corporate dollars be able to fund this policy, and then you can use it, you know, for any investment opportunity inside your corporation. If you have a break or you have any other type of business under the holding company. But at the same time, you know, as time goes by, well, sometimes we have to pass away, right? So that money would go back into the corporation tax-free and through what we call the CDA credit. I don't mean to be very technical, but that's, you know, like an account. It's an accounting, you know, term that actually you can pass that money tax-free to the beneficiaries, to the shareholders. So you are doing all this estate planning, you're growing your assets through the use of a cash value life insurance. At the same time, if you need to borrow against it, it would be great, or even you can use it for retirement purposes. Because as well, you can do what we call shareholder loans using the cash value policy, so that way you can actually get money out of the cash value insurance policy to supplement your retirement income. So it's an amazing strategy that, you know, many people don't know about it. They have to be educated about how to do it. It's not for everyone. I want to say that it's not for everyone. It has to be, you know, the proper financial analysis done before we do this or make these recommendations.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to ask you, when you're borrowing against your life insurance policy to invest in any type of asset, are there any restrictions on what you can use that money for?
No, there are no restrictions.
So
when you borrow it against the policies, I mean, if you have an emergency, just use it for whatever.
If I want to buy a yacht, I can buy a yacht with that money.
You can buy, you know, a boat if you want to. You can do whatever you want with it. I mean, that's fine. But if you are using it for, you know, the key thing is if you're using it for an investment, then the interest, because you're borrowing money against the policy, it would be written off.
Written off, and that's
Right?
the key, right?
That's
So
the
that's
key.
another way.
But that's an investment. You're using it
Yeah.
for, you know, for you to buy, I don't know, like to cover an emergency, then obviously that will not be the case.
For sure. And that's the thing. So that's another way you can leverage your insurance policy is you're not, the interest, you're going to get the write-off, the deductions, you're going to get, your cash value is going to grow over time, plus
Right.
your asset is going to grow over time as well.
And the tax-free benefit at
And
that.
the tax-free benefit at that. So it just, the benefits just keep adding up. It's amazing. I really think that more people need to know about life insurance and how you can leverage it to
Absolutely, yeah.
give your family a better financial future, give yourself a better life while you're still living. Like you said, it's
Right.
not a death policy, and also grow your investments at the same time. This was amazing. This was really informative. I just want to end the session off with one final question to you.
Sure.
And I think you've answered it quite well, but I do want to just ask one more time. What is your competitive advantage as an entrepreneur, as a financial planner? How do you differentiate yourself from other people in your industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, as I mentioned, you know, before, I think, you know, I'm very keen on building long-term relationships. I'm not a transactional advisor, which there are so many people out there, they do that. And also, I just don't only focus on investment or insurance, because a lot of professionals, you know, they only do insurance or they do investments. Like in my practice, we are always doing estate planning. We do retirement planning, wealth management, and we have the insurance and investment solutions to go through this. But we do more of a holistic financial planning approach That's number one. So we're not just doing insurance and investments. We do like, the holistic approach. That's number one. And number two is, it's just building long-term relationships. So I've been doing this for 16 years. I have clients since day one up until now. And my idea is just to keep building those relationships for long-term and be the financial, expert, let's call it that way, for that family, for that business. So I can actually be the source go-to people or the go-to person in my case because I have a team, for all their financial planning needs and investments and insurance.
That's amazing. If people want to seek your help, if
Right.
they want your assistance with planning for their future, where can they reach you?
Yeah, it's I have my website. It's very simple. It's www.ivanarturo.com. IVANARTURO.com. Easy. You can Google as well, and that's just Google my name and it should come up all my LinkedIn, the website, and the Instagram that I have as well.
Guys, this man here is a wealth of knowledge. Every time I speak to him, I learn more and more, and it's going to continue that way. I highly recommend you reach out to Ivan if you
Thank
need
you.
any assistance with financial planning, life insurance, or anything that we talked about today. He's just a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for being on here today. It was my pleasure interviewing you, sir.
Ibrahim, thank you so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you,
guys.
and a lot of success, for this podcast. And please, follow Ibrahim. He's doing amazing things, for the community, for the entrepreneurs. And yeah, he has an amazing mindset and really like, this show. Thank you so much for having
Thank you
me.
so much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the first official episode of The Synergy Show. Stay in tune for the next one.